Welcome everyone. This is Tarkan Batgun again from Comparisonator, and I have a fantastic guest all the way from United States. His name is Damani Ralph. He was born in 1980 in Kingston, Jamaica. Retired Jamaican footballer who played as a forward in the past. Professional career spent 5 years from Chicago Fire 2003, 2004. Then after that, Rubin Kazan, the famous Rubin Kazan, to be honest, and also earned 18 caps with Jamaican national team. And after retiring from football, and Ralph has been licensed FIFA agent since 2011 and currently vice president of world famous CAA Stellar USA. So welcome first.
Thank you, Tarkan. It's a pleasure being here.
My first question would be, as you know, since the pandemics, there's a lot of things changed, and especially with regard to data usage amongst the teams and agencies spread out. So what's your relationship like with regard to football data?
So the data, we use the data in multiple different ways. We use it from helping our players in terms of accountability, seeing where they are compared to how they're performing within their domestic league. And for the players who are aspiring to get to Europe from the US, we also use it to compare their data to how players in similar positions, similar age groups are performing in Europe. So I think it's a fantastic tool because you can share this with your client. And you've heard this all saying, numbers never lie. So when you're able to show your clients the numbers, they're able to know to hold themselves accountable as to what they need to be doing extra and improving on. So comparison has been very helpful in that sense. And as from a business standpoint, it's a fantastic tool as you're looking now to move a player outside of the MLS or to move a player from Europe into MLS. You know, you can really use that data to compare what your players are able to do over a full season, how they do weekly, how they do monthly, because of the AI technology within your platform. So it gives us a really good tools that we can use to target specific leagues for our clients based on their profile, their numbers, their data. So it's really helpful in that sense.
Great. One thing that I was wondering, Damani, after retirement from football, how did your decision-making process develop and you decided to be an agent?
Well, my career got short due to a knee injury. So at the time, I was still fairly young, only 25, 26. Far too young in my mind at that point to really consider coaching. I still wanted to be around the game. I still felt I had a lot to offer the game. And at the time, I started working with my then agent, Patrick McCabe, and I felt it would be a good opportunity to give back to players in terms of my experience, my life experience coming through from humble beginnings in Jamaica to making it at the top level. You know, I felt like there were things through my process, through my development, I didn't have in terms of a mentor somewhat. And I felt I could give back to my clients who are aspiring to one day get to Europe, that this would be a fantastic opportunity.
Well, in general sense, what do you think where the transfer industry is going? What are the differences, let's say 5 years ago to now, for example?
I think, you know, we've gone through a few changes, right? We've gone through the pandemic where we saw a massive contraction in terms of, you know, club spending. Now we're somewhat coming out of that where the industry is healthy again, and I think clubs are opening their pockets. I think we're at a stage, you know, where there's this blend of the sports science and the old thinking of, you know, trusting the eye, passing the eye test. So I think it's, you know, it's in a very peculiar position now because you've got the older people who don't really trust so much the sports science, and then you have the younger generation that is constantly trying to push the industry in the sense of, how can they become more efficient in terms of going through the process of identifying the right players and identifying and spending less time having to travel here and there when they can just plug in players and run their data to limit, the amount of downtime spent in terms of watching 2015 games just to decide on a player. So I think the football is in a space where you're seeing the evolution of the game. It's a fantastic time, and I look forward to seeing what the next couple of years look like.
Well, another thing that I was wondering, there are a lot of changes in the MLS, and now Next Pro is also there. But what I've noticed, for example, from Comparisonator data, there's a lot of young talents, especially under 23 football players are all over Europe, which is more than 300 currently. My first question, how does this happen? They can't find spaces in the MLS and move even to even better clubs. And what are the changes now in the MLS? Because every year I see a lot of different changes, rules. And if you could just give us a little bit of summary about the MLS and the United States football and footballers.
I think we would need a whole day session to go through the ever-changing MLS rules, Tarkan. But the general rule to think about MLS versus Europe is there's a limited budget here. So the teams have to be very, very careful when it comes to making a decision on an impact player. An impact player would be a DP player, a TAM player, because they only have a certain amount of slots to fill in those positions. 3 for the 3-4, DPs and a couple of TAM players. So you find that, in Europe, you sign a bad player, you can always loan him out, you can put him to the side, go back to the owners and say, hey, I need another 5-10 million. MLS doesn't operate that way. There's a yearly budget. So they have to go through a very rigid vetting process. It does take a long time sometimes for them to make decisions, which I know is quite frustrating, not only to us, but also agents in Europe. But the game here is evolving. The level is rising every year. It's an exciting time getting into the 2026 World Cup. I can see more resources, more revenue being pumped into MLS. The teams are starting to spend more. If you look across MLS now, you're seeing transfers of $10 million, $15 million for incoming players. For me, that's very substantial from where it was 10 years ago. So I think, you're seeing now where MLS is also in the race, targeting players that the big clubs in Europe are trying to sign. South Americans, there's a boy who is playing in a secondary league in Europe. You're seeing now that MLS is able to actually compete at the transfer level now for these younger players that are trying to break into first-team football to make that next jump into a big club in Europe. So it's a fantastic time. I think agents need to be aware of that it's a very good platform for the young players, because there's a big shop window here. All the games are televised, across the globe. And the level is there. The level is higher, and, it's a good platform, like I said, for a young boy, 21 to 24, or if you have a senior player that, would like to come to the US and make good money and play at a good level. The stadiums average around 25, 30,000 people every game. So you're playing in front of good, good fans, good infrastructure, etc.
And it's been great to speak with you, Damani Ralph from CAA Stellar, very famous agency. And it has been
number one.
Hope to see you someday in Istanbul.
Absolutely, Tarkan. Looking forward to seeing you soon, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.